Hey, what's up guys? John here. Joe Biden wants to end the 1031 exchange. If you don't know what a 1031 exchange is, let's say that you're a new real estate investor and you have big aspirations. You want to own a $50 million, $100 million, $1 billion real estate portfolio, but you can't start there. So what you do is you buy one very small deal and then you do really well in this deal and you sell that property for a gain and you roll the gains into another deal of like kind. As long as that next deal meets certain requirements, you can defer paying any of your taxes. And you can continue doing this from that deal to the next deal to the next deal and continue building out a huge real estate portfolio without paying any taxes. It's a great vehicle for real estate investors. However, every single city, every single deal benefits greatly from this because if you buy the first deal for say $1 million hypothetically, and it's in LA County, and the property tax base is 1.25%, the city will benefit $12,500 per year from you having purchased that property. Now, if you sold it for $2 million, the city gets an extra $12,500 per year, over $1,000 per month, every single month, forever, because you having purchased and sold that property and done well on it. So it encourages real estate investing. However, now Joe Biden is changing the 1031 exchange, which is now going to be very, very bad. And I'm going to lay this out of what we're going to expect. And now we're going to see big commercial investors coming after the small deals. So you're going to compete with like a Blackstone, a BlackRock, one of these multi-billion dollar or trillion dollar companies going after these small deals that the first time buyer is trying to buy. So I'm going to lay it out in this video. Please smash that like button. When you hit the like button, YouTube is going to share the content and educate more new real estate investors as to what's really going to be happening. So please hit that like button. Let's begin. Joe Biden just announced today that he is targeting this $41 billion tax loophole, and he calls it a tax break for rich real estate investors. The U.S. president wants to cut back a tax break that allows investors to keep buying and selling properties without paying capital gains. We scroll down and it says Joe Biden is taking aim at real estate investors used to buying and selling properties without having to pay capital gains. The U.S. president's new economic plan calls for abolishing the right to defer capital gains tax payments on property investment gains of $500,000 or more as part of a broader effort to raise taxes on the rich to pay for the expansion of services including free preschool to less wealthy Americans. So $500,000 or more. So what larger scale investors are doing is they're buying properties for $5 and $10 and $20 and $50 million and doing something called forced appreciation, which is they make the building more profitable, either by increasing rents, they fix something in that building, they increase the value of it through the cash flow, and they sell that asset based upon the new cash flow. So they're going after big deals because there's big money in big deals. However, those big deals come with large profits, and there's large profits come at huge taxes. So with these tax liabilities, now they're likely going to be going after the small deal, you know, the small 3, 4, 5, 10 unit building where they can essentially evade those taxes. However, they're likely now going to have all these big companies going after these small deals because who's going to want to pay taxes? $500,000 is not that much profit. If you're looking at a $1 billion plus balance sheet and they have a ton of money just sitting there looking to deploy it into assets, they're going to likely go after the big deals. So that's how it was before. But now it's not going to make sense to do that. Now they're saying a known 1031 exchange, the perk allows property investors to roll the proceeds of real estate sales into future purchases without paying capital gains taxes on the profits. The deferral process can theoretically continue indefinitely until the investor's death, and if assets are passed on to their heir, the capital gains tax is often wiped out. This strategy was projected to save investors $41.4 billion between 2020 and 2024, according to the Congress's Joint Committee on Taxation. These figures, however, don't break down how much of this benefit applies to gains greater than $500,000. So ultimately, when we have right now this competitive market, I just lost that in a deal in Florida today. And when we have this competitive market, what we're likely going to see is these big investors going in and saying, I'm going to buy everything all cash. So if you don't have all cash, it's going to be hard for you to compete. If you're going to buy something with 3.5% down, like an FHA loan, that deal is going to be heavily contingent on the property meeting certain requirements, you getting the appraisal, everything working out perfectly. But these private equity companies are likely going to just go in and buy properties by the thousands, buy a lot of these small deals, and essentially and strategically take over the middle class market. And Joe Biden says this is a really good thing that he ends a 1031 exchange. However, smart people, rich people, as the saying always goes, the rich get richer. They're not going to leave real estate. They're either going to find a more creative and lucrative way to target real estate, or they're likely going to leave real estate as a whole, or a lot of them are going to find other ways to make more money. But I personally think they're going to be going after the small deal. Who will the changes hit? Exclusively investors in property, such as those who own residential real estate, which is 1 to 4 units. These can be large investors or small landlords. While the like-kind rule once applied to things like industrial equipment, Congress closed a loophole for most other industries in 2017. It's still a much-used tactic in the property industry, including by Donald Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner. They really like to name drop certain people that the media has done a good job at bringing negative attention to. And why they do this is because most people listen to the media. So they'll listen to the media and they'll say, okay, yeah, that person's a bad person and this is what they do. So because they do that, then this must be a bad thing that we need to end. But by far the biggest beneficiaries of the current rules are individuals. According to the JCT figures, this rule, corporations will benefit to the tune of $2.3 billion, while individuals will gain $5.7 billion. Smaller scale investors won't be hit by the changes, since the provision, sometimes referred to as a 1031 exchange because of its tax code designation, would continue to be allowed until proceeds are $500,000. Mike Burney is one, the 57-year-old Hudson County, New Jersey, by the regional director of Liberty Realty, bought 2 studios in Jersey City for $72,000 in 2004. In 2019, he sold one for $250,000. In 2020, the other $255,000. Taking into account some refinancing, he netted roughly $140,000 in equity on each, then used the proceeds to buy 2 condos in Ashbury Park and 2 in Union City. He says the purchase would not have happened without the capital gains break, and he's skeptical of tweaking the benefit. It is the best way for individuals to build equity, Bernie said. It's a shame that the politicians wrongfully portray 1031 exchanges as a tax loophole for the wealthy. The president's proposal, called the American Families Plan, also includes a proposal to axe private equity's most lucrative tax break. The break treats compensation from carried interest, which for some managers can add up to millions of dollars. Like capital gains, which often lower taxes than wages at the top marginal income tax, this break is often tied to property projects. How controversial is this change? The tax break has vocal supporters. It is part of the U.S. tax code since 1921 and originally covered such situations as when 2 farmers exchange livestock. Proponents argue it is a vital tool for small businesses that allows them to upgrade to facilities that better fit the needs without facing a big bill. A 2015 study by academics David C. Ling and Melania Petrobi argued removing a tax break would have negative consequences, including reducing liquidity in the market because the holding periods would increase. They also suggested real estate investment would decrease, property prices would fall in the short term, and rents would rise in the long term. What's the case for reform? Simply put, that it unfairly benefits wealthier Americans who can afford to make larger investments. Middle-class families, meanwhile, are never likely to own many assets outside of their homes and 401ks. The left-leaning Institute of Taxation and Economics Policy argue the tax break has expanded far from its original intention of supporting small-scale transactions and now involves an industry of brokers who find qualifying properties to insert into a deal. In a 2019 paper, the Institute explained how a trade of Midwestern farmland for a Florida apartment could be considered a like-kind exchange. I'm hoping that they do not abolish the 1031 exchange. If you get rid of the 1031 exchange, it takes away a lot of the desirability of getting into real estate. And ultimately, it's going to take away the benefits for investors to go into certain communities that are troubled, meaning the schools are underfunded, it's dangerous. And when you buy properties in these communities and you're increasing the value and selling, you're allowing additional funding to go into these communities, and it makes them safer and it makes them better for the people that live there. So when you take away that desirability, the investors are not going to take the risk of entering these communities, and they're going to stay in certain areas. They're going to hit certain thresholds. They're going to target smaller deals. It's just going to get harder and harder for new investors to go out there and compete. So I'm hoping that they do not get rid of the 1031 exchange. What are your thoughts about the 1031 exchange and what Biden is planning to do? Drop your comments below. Please smash that like button. When you hit the like button, YouTube's going to share the content. And consider subscribing for more content on personal finance, real estate, business, and money. All right, guys, see you in the next video. Hey, if you'd like to learn how to get started on YouTube, click the link in my bio. It's a free live training. And if you'd like to learn how to invest in cash flowing multifamily real estate for beginners, there's a link there as well. All right, guys.